Look, I believe in the sanctity of every human life, always have. And because of that, I support IVF and its availability. If you look at the statistics, it's really an amazing thing. Since the technology became available in, I think, the 70s, maybe the mid-70s, an estimated 8 million births in the U.S. Have been brought about because of that technology. Kelly and I have many close friends who have had trouble with fertility issues, and they've had beautiful families as a result of IVF. And so it needs to be readily available. It needs to be something that every American supports, and it needs to be handled in an ethical manner. So we'll continue to support that. I don't think there's a single person in the Republican conference who disagrees with that statement, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, but it's something I think we ought to support.
There's Christian Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, smugly telling reporters that he supports IVF treatments, adding that every member of the conference does too. In fact, some of his best friends have grown their families due to IVF. But I wonder what his friends think of him co-sponsoring a bill that would sweepingly ban abortion nationwide, including access to IVF. Maybe he's hoping that his friends are up on the topic about as much as the senator from the very state that sparked this entire IVF battle is.
I wanted to ask, do you have a reaction to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling on the fact that embryos are children?
Yeah, I was all for it. You just got to look at everything going on in the country. It's just an attack on families, attack on kids. Anything that we can do for the future of our young people, because they're our number one commodity, we need to have more kids. We need to have an opportunity to do that. And I thought this was the right thing to do. But
IVF is used to have more children, and right now IVF services are paused at some of the clinics in Alabama. Aren't you concerned that this could impact people who are trying to have kids?
Well, that's for another conversation.
Tommy Tuberville has no idea what NBC News' Dasha Burns is asking him about. All he heard was the Alabama court ruling on embryos being children, and without even knowing what the hell that means for his constituents, he co-signed with the assumption that it helps families that want kids. This was a clear example of Republican legislation and court rulings that focus on telling people what to do so much, they end up screwing over the folks they claim to work for. Then they have to go back and backpedal from the boogeyman that they created for years. Ron DeSantis encountered the same thing over his mass book banning campaign that didn't result in the presidential nomination as planned. So now it's back to reality for him, too.
IVF is not a Democrat or Republican issue. Families across the board use it. What is your message to the Supreme Court if this does, in fact, stop families from being able to use IVF?
Well, we don't need that. I'm understanding with that. We need people to have an opportunity to have kids. Okay, that's my whole.
You support women being able to have IVF?
Sure I do. I understand that. I mean, that's not my decision.
But do you agree with that decision?
No, they should be able to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They
should be
able
able.
to have IVF treatment.
Sure they should.
Do you agree with the Supreme Court decision or not?
I'd have to look at what they're agreeing to or not agreeing to. I haven't seen that.
This is the routine. Advocate for radical stances that strip Americans of their rights based off of some people's bastardized versions of religion, deny that the laws will go so far as to endanger people's lives, and then once those bad laws actually start harming people, just claim that it's not a big deal and we'll try to fix it. I'm sure before he co-signed onto the idea, Representative Jim Banks would have also said Republicans have no desire to limit the free travel of Americans. But here he is.
Our work as a pro-life movement is far from over. If a young lady can hop in a car in Fort Wayne and in an hour and a half, she can be in a place in Michigan, or in just under 3 hours, she could cross the line into Illinois and achieve what she was able to do with abortion clinics here in Indiana, the fight is far from over.
That's exactly right. And I'm for federal legislation. I'm for stronger laws at the state levels, whatever we can do to save lives, to protect babies. That's what this fight is all about.
And no one is more consistent on anything like Lindsey Graham is consistent. And he'll tell you so right before being wildly inconsistent.
I've been consistent. I think states should decide the issue of marriage and states should decide the issue of abortion.
But there are also a lot of Republicans who believe in federalism and states' rights and on things like deciding their own laws on abortion.
Sure.
And this federal abortion ban would go against that.
This is not a states' rights issue. This is a human right issue.